Hello and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. And today, well, we're back on Premier League Countdown. Today we're talking about Manchester City, our light blue brothers. Now make sure to like and subscribe if you are new. We're trying to hit 500 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're just under 60 away from hitting it at this current moment in time as we are recording it. Make sure to follow all the social medias as well. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at GVO Mikes. Okay, Manchester City obviously won the league last year. They won the league the year before that. They won the league the year before that, and they won the league the year before that. So they won it 4 times in a row. Now I'd like to say thank you to Manchester City for stopping Arsenal from winning it for the past 2 years, and they're probably going to do it again. And I'm quite confident that they're going to do it again because I'm not going to fall for the same trick 3 times in a row of panic. You don't understand how much I wanted Manchester City to beat Tottenham. Now, I already want Tottenham to lose every game that they play anyway, but you don't understand how much I wanted Manchester City to win against Tottenham in that game, and they did. And listen, as much as they played against us, I couldn't care less when they beat us. Our season was more than over, like 2 months before that, so it didn't really bother me. I'll give Moyes a good send off. When have we haven't won at the Etihad since Pellegrini was Manchester City manager? A lot has happened since then. But not talking about West Ham today. With Manchester City, they don't sign players anymore. Now, fuck knows if that's to do with the charges or something like that. But they've signed Savio. Obviously, the stupid Man United fans said that was illegal, even though he's a Troyes player, not a Girona player. Now they have association with Troyes as well. But the whole thing was, Man United can't buy Todibo because the whole Nice and Man United thing with the ownership. Well, Manchester City didn't buy Savio from Girona. So, very, very stupid from Manchester United fans as usual. With the squad that they have equipped, like, even going from last year, going back of the treble season, it was always going to be a little bit of a dip because you're not going to win the treble every year. As much as listen, anything's possible in football, but it's very rare that a team actually wins a treble every year. And there was always going to be a natural dip. But even for Manchester City standards, like they won a one trophy, and I still think it was quite a bad season for them. I don't know whether Manchester City fans feel the same, but even though they did face Real Madrid in the Champions League, I think in that home performance especially, they would have been very disappointed with. Now Antonio Rudiger locked up Erling Haaland very well, and yes, it went to penalties. But I think Manchester City fans might be a bit disappointed with how they performed in the Champions League there. Typical Real Madrid winning moments, they know how to do it, and as always, I'm sure Manchester City would like to redeem themselves this season, even though I think Real Madrid will win it again. Within the FA Cup, that FA Cup final performance was terrible. On the one lucky day that Manchester United actually were defensively organised, done very well, very solid at the back, pause, and even the shit players performed well. You know, the Garnachos, McTominays, and Rashfords, and Bruno Fernandes. Even Bruno Fernandes performed in a big game. That was a weird game to watch because I thought Man City are going to have them again. Little did I know that they would really get countered like that. Now I thought Manchester City maybe would do a bit more in this transfer window. They still can't get rid of Calvin Phillips. I know he's performed well allegedly in the centre back role, but come on, let's be serious. I didn't expect anyone else to leave for Manchester City. I didn't expect the Edison thing to happen. I just thought that's not going to happen. There's no way that they let Edison go. But obviously they put a certain price on Edison. They didn't want to pay for it. So simple as that. So Edison's still in Manchester City. Ortega has proved himself that he can be a number one goalkeeper as well. So they've got good depth there. Obviously, and the legend that is Scott Carson, of course. Don't forget Scott Carson. They've been playing this 4 centre back thing for like 18 months now, and I think knowing Pep, he's bound to switch something up within this Manchester City side of how they line up once again. But within the treble season, especially Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva recycling the ball on the wings, and John Stones going into midfield. That was when Manchester City were pretty much unstoppable in terms of possession with the 3-2-5 formation in possession and all that. I'm not sure if there's going to be a bit of a change due to the fact that Savio's joined. Obviously, Grealish is very motivated to have a better season than he did last season. Phil Foden would like to carry on the season he's been having. God knows if Kevin De Bruyne's fully fit to play week in, week out now. He's coming to the point where I think, okay, your age is starting to show a little bit. Like, the quality is still there, of course. It's Kevin De Bruyne. This is Kevin De Bruyne we're talking about, but the age is showing. Now, my problem with Manchester City ever since Erling Haaland joined. Now, Erling Haaland isn't a terrible player and is very over criticised. I would say some of the criticisms are fair, but some of them are a bit overboard. Now, with Haaland, what my problem is with Manchester City, especially in the big games, and why I think they didn't win the big 6 games as much last season, was because the style of play was so specific into getting the crosses into Haaland that the best teams have intelligent defenders. Like the Arsenal game where they faced 0-0, it became so specific and trying to play the ball to Haaland that Gabriel and Saliba did a great job of just closing that space away and just trapping them. But at the end of the day, Manchester City still won the games they needed to and won the league. Now, the reason why they're going to win the league again is because they have a better striker than anyone else in the league. They have more know-how than anyone else in the league. Now, despite Arsenal probably having the best centre-back partnership, but in general, when fully fit, Manchester City they're unstoppable. Now, less of Kyle Walker this year, because Kyle Walker, I think, wanted Arsenal to win the league last season as well. That's how he played. That's how he played in the Euros as well. It's like he hates England and Manchester City. He was playing like he hates football. So less of Kyle Walker, probably more Manuel Akanji. You'll see Manuel Akanji has really stepped up and really been one of them signings that has gone completely under the radar for a Manchester City standard and has gone overboard in terms of his price tag. I'm pretty sure his price tag wasn't even that much, but he's played like a £50 million player, especially in the sense of when they play 4 centre-backs and he's played on the right or just played in the centre-back. When he goes into midfield, he's shit, but he was never made to play there. I want to see more of Rico Lewis. I would like to see more of Rico Lewis. Now, Pep is very, very careful, just in general, but when it comes to young players, like you only really saw Phil Foden be the main guy last season, and he had a great season. You're going to see patience with the likes of Oscar Bob, Rico Lewis, and also Nico O'Reilly, who seems to be the answer to the Rodri replacement at this current moment in time. I don't actually think he will play that much, but Pep seems to really like him. And I want to watch more of this Nico O'Reilly guy because I think I've only watched like 2 games and I've been impressed, but I didn't know whether Manchester City fans or the Manchester City coaching staff really rated him as highly. It seems as if Manchester City are like, we don't actually need to buy anyone because we've got them at home. Now, I don't know whether they're actually going to replace Julian Alvarez, a man who I didn't think was good enough for Manchester City, in my opinion. For example, if Haaland wasn't there and Alvarez was the main striker, I think Arsenal would have won the league. Now, I'm not saying Havertz is a better striker or anything, because I don't rate Kai Havertz at all. But I don't rate Julian Alvarez to the top elite level. I rate him as a top 4 player. I don't rate him as a striker that can win you the league or anything like that. I think for a man who's meant to be good at link-up play, you're not really outstanding in link-up play. You're not really an outstanding finisher either. He's a great technician for sure, but that's it for me, in my opinion. And yes, he wanted to play more, so I understand why he wanted to leave. But surely you knew what you was getting. Erling Haaland's a robot. You may be technically better than him, but Erling Haaland's a demon of a finisher, an absolute demon of a finisher. And obviously, I would like to, from just a neutral perspective and just for a football enjoyer perspective, I would like to see someone like Grealish down the middle because I think that's his best position. Now, I don't think he actually plays that bad on the left wing. And I think he played a really crucial part to their treble role. However, last season wasn't good enough at all for him. I do like Jack Grealish a lot. I do. I'm expecting him to have a better season as well because he doesn't want his England career to end. Of course he doesn't. And he wants to prove to people that he's probably one of them footballers that sees a lot more of the criticisms as well. So he's probably one of the people that are more motivated than ever before. I think when in a midfield position, I don't know what the future holds for someone like a Mateus Nunes. I forgot a man who I really forgot was at Manchester City. Now, like everyone that they first sign, you get your first season just to settle in. But it's almost like he was just there for vibes, like just a Portuguese cheerleader. But I want to see more of him to see what the vision is with him in the Manchester City side. But James McAtee seems to be in the first team as well. Nico O'Reilly and Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis and Phil Foden. All these guys are academy players. Manchester City probably have the best academy right now, and they're starting to use it. They've got options now. So the winger options are now Doku, Grealish, Savio, Oscar Bob, and Bernardo Silva at times. And the midfield options, they've got quite a few midfield options, to be fair to them now. If they're including Nico O'Reilly as a 6 option, he's there. Obviously, Calvin Phillips does exist, but it seems to be Nico O'Reilly's already better than him. The centre backs, they've got a few centre backs. Unless they get a really bad injury crisis, they don't really need to worry in that sense. In goalkeeper, they're fine, and we'll see what they're like replacing with Julian Alvarez. So when you come to the conclusion, their squad is still really good. And also, I know Arsenal probably will sign Marino, which I think is a good signing, and Calafiori is a good signing, even though I don't think they needed him. They still need a striker, and I don't think Arsenal have the necessary mentality or balance in midfield to actually win the league. And like some Arsenal fans have said as well, the winger options, tired. Like in terms of the left wing, Martinelli is really holding them back. So if I'm looking at the competition in the Premier League, they're going to be surrounding Manchester City. Unless Liverpool pull off a miracle or Arsenal really prove me wrong, I think Arsenal will be up there again. I don't think it's going to be a title challenge. I think Man City win it again, and I think, despite the fact that Manchester City haven't made blatant moves and improvements to bolster their squad necessarily, I still think they'll win the league, and I think it'll be even more comfortable than it was last season. Now, I do think Arsenal improved last season. I don't want to talk about Arsenal too much because it's specifically about Manchester City, but just with the context of the title race, like I think Arsenal did improve. But I think Manchester City just have too much know-how, and it's almost like for the reason of like a player coming in, you don't see the vision at first, whoever it is, and then they just automatically get into the Manchester City vision. A prime example of that last season was Josko Gvardiol. Now, it doesn't necessarily work for Croatia. Croatia manager tried playing him the same way, but the Croatia manager was playing 2 at the back essentially. But with Manchester City, I didn't like at first watching Josko Gvardiol hugging the touchline as a left back when I wanted to see him at centre back. But all of a sudden, I remember that Fulham game. I was watching it in a pub, and this guy was cutting in on his right foot and scoring. And I'm like, what the fuck is Pep doing? And how does he do this? Because Pep is a mad genius. But when you think of mad geniuses, they've got the balance of crazy and genius. But a lot of these people that are mad geniuses, their crazy outweighs their genius. But with Pep, his crazy turns into genius. Now, I want to see what his vision is like for other players that come in, the Mateus Nunes and the Dokus. With Gvardiol, he's one of the few Manchester City signings that I've seen in the Saudi Arabia takeover era where the signing comes in and they hit the ground running straight away. Like, it's rare you get someone like that. And Aguero, that type of player as well, where he came in and he just took the league by storm. Like Gvardiol did the exact same. It was probably the best left back of last season, if I'm remembering correctly. And he's the centre back. I thought they signed him for centre back. I thought that he was the Laporte replacement. But he was himself. He was just Josko Gvardiol. Now, Haaland's going to win Golden Boot. Manchester City are going to win the league. Rodri will probably get Player of the Year again. Rodri, by the way, let's talk about Rodri. I don't want to do this just because, I don't want to do this thing of because a player is so good and they get their plaudits already that we don't talk about them because we know how good they are. I want to talk about Rodri. Now, I want to preface this. My only thing is I will never, ever compare anyone in that position to Sergio Busquets. I'm sorry if any Manchester City fans disagree, but I think Sergio Busquets, there's never, ever going to be anyone like him. Never in a million years. I think that guy was just ahead of time and he saw the game 10 years before anyone else did. Now, Rodri is sensational, world-class, a brilliant talent, and will go down in Premier League history as one of the best midfielders to touch the league. And I'm just not comparing him to Busquets, that's it. But with Rodri, he's going to have another fantastic season, and his record cannot be misconstrued, because the only times he's lost games has been via penalties. They cannot beat this guy in 90 minutes. Now, people are going to be like, you're moving the goalpost for the record, but that record still needs to be talked about. Like, it's not like Rodri can't get spun. Anyone could get spun. Anyone can have a bad game. Anyone can have a bad moment. Anyone could be sat down on the floor. But get your little jabs while you can, because that really happens in the general thing. I'm not saying Rodri is not going to have a bad game. He probably will. But it's not going to result in Manchester City losing. Now, if Rodri can stay fit, then Man City could go on a fucking invincible title. But they probably won't. I don't think Rodri's going to get suspended at some point. And Manchester City, and that'll be the game that Manchester City lose. Because that's what happened against Wolves. And they didn't beat... when they lost to Arsenal, Rodri wasn't there either. Now, to be fair, Rodri played the FA Cup final. So that was the only time, the last game he actually played for Manchester City, he actually did get beat. Now that I remember it. But now they've got to do it in the league. Now people got to do it in the league with Rodri there. Once they unlock that, then yeah, who knows? Like that's just a thing they can unlock. But if you look at the midfielders they have, now I remember watching that Arsenal game and being really disappointed with the state of football, because two teams were playing pretty much 4 centre backs that were trying to win the league, and it was boring the living shit out of me. But one thing that really pissed me off was Kovacic in that. Now Kovacic can work in certain games, but I don't think Kovacic should be starting a lot. I think they should just play the box midfield and find, or maybe they need another number 8. Because Kovacic and Nunes as your number 8, so I'd rather you lot play Bernardo Silva there, just from an outsider's perspective, in the big games, because Kovacic isn't mobile enough and hasn't got the turning circle of a 4x4 truck. So I don't think he should be playing in the bigger games unless Matheus Nunes makes a step up. I reckon Bernardo Silva's probably the best player to play alongside Rodri in there. They probably want someone that can play alongside Rodri. I'm not too sure what Manchester City fans think about that. I would like you guys to let me know what you guys think of the overall season coming up as well. I won't be watching the Community Shield because there's a West Ham game on at the same time. But you'll probably lose that because you always lose the Community Shield, and you'll probably win the league. But I've talked 17 minutes. Apparently nobody, and I want to stick up for Manchester City as well, because apparently nobody cares about Manchester City, but all they go on about is the fucking charges. Now, Manchester City are guilty, then yes, punish them, of course. But if Manchester City aren't guilty, then, well, if Manchester City haven't done the things, then don't punish them. I think Man City will get a fine, and that's it. I am more upset at the fact that there's other fan bases in the Big Six that are trying to play the moral fucking high ground when all of you went for a Super League. So the fact that everyone's trying to play the moral high ground in football, you don't really know what your owners are getting up to. But there's this whole stigma on almost the Saudi Arabian owners, because we all know why. It all leads back to that. But we'll get into those another time. We'll get into that another time, maybe. I try to keep these conversations about football. But I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe if you are new. My social medias are in the description if you want to follow me. The email for the Enquiries. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers before the end of the year. And I'll see you guys later.